Yeah, my name's Vito Abbinante. I have been with ATI for about 5.5 years. ATI is the fourth largest by office count restoration company in the United States. I'm the main liaison between ATI and third-party vendors, a lot of our third-party vendors, specifically for either operations or field use. As a company, we live in Salesforce. Salesforce is our CRM, our job management, all of it. But what we did not have is a technology team. We have a great technology team, but they just did not have the bandwidth to build something like this for us. And we didn't want to use Freshservice, which is what they're using for ticket intake. So basically, Kurt, my former boss, and I settled on Monday, started working in it, seeing the limitations, but also seeing the like where we could go with it. We needed solutions for certain things, and three of those main solutions came from Spot-nik. So we use originally we were using work forms or super forms, excuse me. Then we started using super mail, and along the lines we also jumped in with workflow. It definitely fills in the major gaps in native features that Monday either did not have or is never planning on having. So yeah, I like being a Spot-nik partner. I love working with Guy and Ram and all of it. So I would love to show you kind of our board if you want. We have 4 admins, 20 estimators, and basically what they're doing is we are using super forms. So I'll use this one as an example because this is the one we get most of our work from. One thing you'll recognize here, or you'll notice here, is this board is so large. We have over 200 columns. The form is huge outside of, like a lot of it's closed down because I have different information for different forms. But I mean, you can see we gather a lot of information with these forms. So someone in the field needs to write an estimate for work to be done. So they're going to fill out the form. They're going to submit the ticket to us via Monday. We are going to write the estimate in our platform, but all the information is going to be there in Monday. And then we're using it as workflow for, okay, we're done, click a button, send it back, and so on. So we write the estimate remote. So this is our estimating team. So we have how many? 17 estimators, plus the leadership team. But yeah, we have estimators, senior estimators, and so on. We know what platforms they can write in because there are multiple platforms to write in. We know what they're comfortable estimating, low volume or low dollar amount, high dollar amount, whatever. What division they write in, because we do work in construction, we do emergency services. Some people are much better at writing asbestos and mold remediation than they are at writing reconstruction, because the reconstruction gets a lot more granular. So basically you can go in, and the new workflow is, only gives you the options you want. But if I show, this is what the workflow actually looks like. So this is our main, like this strip here is our main process. But we do have a second workflow. And what this is, I call this the admin workflow or the request workflow. Basically, the admin is the one who handles the qualification, approving it, and assigning it. Once it's assigned and it's in development, it sits in development in this workflow until once it gets assigned, then the estimator lives in this workflow. So it'll be marked as assigned, and then they mark it as I'm working on this. That way we know, look, you've got 5 estimates. None of them are marked working on it. Are you working on something right now? Oh yeah, I'm working on this one. Okay, put that in there so I know you've got another estimate that's due today, but you're not even there yet, kind of a thing. So they mark it as working, they put their name on it, all that good stuff. And then when they're done, they mark it done, and it marks both options done. So when they mark it done, it marks it as estimate complete in the request workflow.
What the value that the app is bringing you? Because when you clicked on the show workflow, it looks like you did like almost all the arrows. Like you can go from every step to every step, or at least it's hard to see from the sketch. Oh, but
yeah,
some of them you did eliminate, like the
Correct.
final stages. You said, okay, once it's closed, it's closed. No one can go out of it.
Correct. The workflow setup is, I love it because the reason I use it mostly is user permissions and the required columns. That was huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was three things that I really wanted to do. One of them was I wanted to prevent users from seeing every single one of these options. Because right now we've got, what do we have? 5, 9, 12, 15. Outside of the blank, there's 15 options here. I don't need everyone to see 15 options. When you are in a specific area, I want you to see 3 options, maybe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's really important for me to narrow things down to only allow people to see what they should be doing, then only allow them to do it if they have filled out something specific. So for approved pending, they have to mark themselves as the approver. But if they're moving it from approved to in development, they need to mark who they are, they need to assign an estimator, and they need to fill out the notes of, hey, this, make sure you're doing this on this particular job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was no option for that in Monday to mark things as a required field in order to get to this status. And so Spot-nik, when it came to this workflow, this was a godsend. This was amazing, you know, because it was very specific on like, I need you to fill these fields out. If you're not filling them out, we're not doing something correctly. So
And you used also the old workflow version?
I did.
Okay. Okay, so in that sense, like it's the same functionality you already had and you used it, but you just changed the obviously the user
I just
experience.
changed where they go. And that's actually helpful. One thing I told everyone when we switched to this was, look, you guys are living in this Kanban board, right? And you're seeing tiles. And when you open this up at the top here, we had 2 workflows. We had actually had 3 workflows up at the top. We had our updates, we had our files, all this other stuff. And so they had to go to the workflow, and then it took a second for the workflow to pop up, and then we would, you know, and all this other stuff. And visual is great. I love visual. I'm a visual learner. But the problem became not only was the board so large, but even these jobs were large. I had 8 tabs up here, 9 tabs, and
Yeah.
one of them was a workflow that I had to populate every single time.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I'm like, now you can look at all of your stuff over here. You can look at your files and your updates over here, but I can just go to the workflow right here. If you still want to see it, just click show workflow. Otherwise, just choose what you need to choose, fill out the form, and call it a day.
Right. Okay, so just going back to the point I'm trying to understand, in terms of like what workflow does for you, you said that it first like the required column, so it ensures that all the information you need is populated. Can you like also give me a better like understanding of like in you know business wise, company wise, like if you didn't have it, what were the consequences of the process if you couldn't force people to fill in information?
We have automations triggered by pretty much everything, unfortunately. From our standpoint, when you assign and say you assign it to an estimator, when the estimator assignment field fills out, and the reason I have the trigger on the estimator assignment field is because when I change it in the workflow, I might go back and change the estimator, but the workflow is still the same. I'm still in the same status and all the rest of this stuff. So I had to put the trigger on who was in this people field. Well, I have an automation on that. So if I forget to assign someone specifically, then an automation doesn't run, meaning an email doesn't get sent to the person it's supposed to get sent to, A, that they were assigned the estimate, but B, that it was assigned, because we have an email going out to the original requester saying, your estimate is in process, it's been assigned to so-and-so, reach out to them if you have any questions. And so the required fields are important for me because not only do I need them filled out for business, like for processes on our end, but also in order to get information back to people who are not native to Monday, who are not in Monday. Just if someone in Fayetteville, North Carolina needed to know that their estimate was is in process. I don't have anyone doing a live audit of the board, so it's one of those things where it's like if something gets stuck somewhere, it moves to where it's not supposed to because of an automation, or we miss something or something along those lines. I couldn't tell you where it is in some cases. Like my archive section, if something moves to archived, man, I don't know. You know, I have automations telling me let's move to archived and all that kind of stuff. But with the number of notifications we get on a daily basis, who knows? You know, the one thing we did have, we had a problem for a while. I actually turned off this process, but we had this estimate review where we were sending it to a reviewer before we were sending it back to the requester. But I had issues somewhere in an automation where it was sending things that weren't ready for review or things that had already been reviewed back into review. And because no one had been triggered to be the reviewer, it was just sent there. They were just sitting in purgatory. And I don't have, like I said, I don't have anyone live auditing it, looking for like all of these mess ups, because for the most part it works, you know. But when it doesn't and something gets lost, it gets lost.
Vito, thank you very, very much for your time. It was super helpful. I appreciate it. Good luck with the kids to school and everything else. And thank you for your time. It was great.
Thank you.